This is a presentation from the Supernaut Network.
Welcome to the Imaginarium, the show where art and creativity intersect and combine for a conversation that can only be found in the Imaginarium. I'm your host, Scott Colbert, and today's guest has been a longtime fixture at sites like Ain't It Cool News, Talkback, and currently Pulp Epic. He's appeared on the Shut Up Kids podcast and is known for his unwavering opinions on cinema. I know him as Carlos Areva, but to the world, he's the one, the only, Asimov Lives. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me, Scott.
And I should also mention that Asimov Lives is also the newest contributor to join the Supernauts. Congratulations, and let me be the first one to welcome you over.
Oh, thank you very much. This is only going downhill from now on.
Excuse me.
So, no. And you shall not edit that out.
Oh, I very well may edit that out.
No, please. Let it. You are sick, man, and still, and you continue. You soldier on.
I soldier on. Yes. I'm still suffering from a cold, and hopefully I'll be able to get rid of this fairly soon.
Rare English Rose has a medicine for that, like a mushi or whatever he called it, mugi, muli.
Well,
it's a whiskey with honey.
I've been taking tea, a lot of orange juice, and some Mucinex, which is supposed to be the best thing for a cold, but it hasn't seemed to have done a goddamn thing.
So, whiskey. I have to try it.
That's next.
Yeah.
So, what kind of articles are we going to expect from you now that you're over at the Supernauts?
Well, film reviews, maybe some opinions about subjects that I'm interested about, and I also have this idea of writing a sort of personal. How shall I call it? I went to a few days to Lisbon. I live next to Lisbon, and Lisbon is the capital of my country. It's a very picturesque capital, and lately it has a lot of tourists from all over Europe, especially the north of Europe, and also from a few Americans. And I noticed that they like it a lot, so much so that we still have tourists even in the winter. So I took some photos, and I'd like to write my experience about it. So something like that, maybe something personal about me. I don't know. I'm not planned because this is so new to me. This news that I joined your site, fine site, by the way. That expect something similar to what I've written in the former Talkbacker,
Well, we're definitely looking forward to what you have to contribute, and I think it's going to add a lot to the site.
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you for having me. I'm very much appreciate.
Well, you'll certainly get a lot more exposure than certain other places that you've been writing at.
Certain places.
Yes, we don't mention that place here.
It
gets bleeped out.
Yeah. Yes, it's the place that shall not be named.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What it is about movies that really inspires your passion for them? Because you're probably one of the most passionate people about movies that I know.
Really? Okay. Actually, it's kind of funny because I thought that would be the standard attitude of a film geek, would be to be this kind of the passion. So actually, to be known as being the passionate geek, for me, it's like, wow, really? I'm that unique? No, I don't think I'm that unique. So about me, who I am? My name is Carlos. That's the Portuguese variation of Charles, by the way. I was born in 1971, so I'm 43. I live in a city called Almada, founded by the Moors. In the 8th century, but there is nothing to prove that. It's just a suburban city nowadays. I live next to Lisbon, which is the capital. I like the city a lot. Actually, in terms of film geek, I'm kind of relatively recent to be a film enthusiast. And when I say this, I mean most people that I speak fellow geeks, they are like since they are the children. For example, when Dan of Shut Up Kids say that he loved the Monster Squad, he probably watched that film when he was 6 or 7, right?
Right.
But not with me. I mean, I always enjoy watching films, but for me, I didn't went to the theater when I was a kid. My parents weren't into films. It was expensive also, and we didn't. We were a relatively poor family, very low middle class, you know, and so that was a kind of luxury that we couldn't afford. And exceptions was like E.T. I watched E.T. on the cinema, but that was one of the very few films that I saw at the time. The I watched the films on TV on Sunday, and Sunday was the when they only show very old films like Errol Flynn films,
Hmm.
pirate films, westerns, old westerns, the John Wayne westerns. That was the kind of films that I watch. Sometimes there was one or two science fiction films, but as far as I can remember, I always liked science fiction. I wasn't always a film fan, but I was always a science fiction fan. And my love for science fiction coincided with my interest for science and space. And for me, the two things were the same. Science fiction was a glimpse into the future that was about to be, which unfortunately didn't happen, right?
Right.
All these bases on the moon, bases on Mars. In 1999, we'll have bases on the moon and Mars, and we will travel to Jupiter. Nothing of that happened, right? Unfortunately. But that was my Imaginarium, shall we say, was for me science fiction and science and and space exploration, well, all the same. And I was fascinated by that. I have no idea what spurred me to that. I don't remember once, and I don't have a memory in which I didn't like science fiction, you know.
Hmm.
And I remember there was Star Trek, which I watched in the black and white TV because because we only have the color emissions and transmission in the 1980 was the first time that we had the color transmission. Before it was in black and white. And for me, Star Trek was a black and white show. Only very late I discovered that the show was actually in color, you know. Yeah, and it was also a science fiction film that made me love cinema, and that was Blade Runner. And I watched Blade Runner in a rerun, not when the film came out. The film came out in 1981, but I watched it in a rerun in the 80s. In America, same thing happened. Sometimes cinemas would make reruns of films that had made their initial theater run on 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
You probably have that experience also, I believe, right?
Yes,
And
definitely.
yeah, okay. So I'm not sure. I think it was 1984, probably. No, 1986, I think, when I watched a rerun of Blade Runner. And at the time, I was a kind of guy that I enjoyed movies. You know, yeah, it was fun watching a movie, but at the time, literature was my far more was my thing, literature and TV. I watched Blade Runner, and when I went to the film, went to watch the film, I was interested in films as a casual interest. You know, I came out a complete film geek. It was in the those 140 minutes that the running time of the film, 140 minutes, 14 minutes. It completely changed my mind. The way I am. everything changed. And just with just the beginning of the film, the beginning when with the opening credits with that music by Vangelis, and all that mystery, and then the first image when that hellish image about the industrial zone surrounding the Tyrell Corporation. I have yet to experience something similar or as impactful as I watched Blade Runner for the first time. I just couldn't believe that a film could look like that, could sound like that a story could be like that could be told like that. You know what I mean? It was just completely out of my usual experience. And the day after I watched Blade Runner, I mean, I went to the poster. I copied the names. I wrote down the names to see who was the people involved. And I discovered his name, Ridley Scott, and I was like, so there is other directors beyond Hitchcock and Spielberg. Who is this Ridley Scott? What he has made other movies. Then I discovered that he made Alien. My mind was blown because it was wow, the movie before Aliens. Ridley Scott did that. And this was my discovery that directors have histories, have in history of careers, and sometimes the films that you like and other films that you like, they are connected by the same person, or people that work in the film also work in other films that you liked, and you make connections. This was for me the first great magical experience about cinema, was to discover these connections. The people who made this movie also made this movie, also made this movie, and they know other people. They made this movie, and the guy that made the music for one film also made the music for other film that you also liked. And that thing, it was like a discovery of a new world. Must be how Columbus discovered America and discovered all these new wonders. For me, it was to discover cinema. And I never lost that sense of wonder about cinema.
It's definitely one of those life-changing events, it seems like, for you, Blade Runner.
Yes, it was a revelation.
I think the movie that did it for me was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I can understand why.
That just was an absolutely amazing movie to me. And I mean, it came out the same year as Star Wars, and
Yes, indeed.
I was far more enraptured with Close Encounters than I ever was with Star Wars. I just found the story more appealing to me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the story with Star Wars, but I like things that are fantastic and somewhat magical, but also have kind of a basis in reality. And that's what Close Encounters provided. Of course, there's the Spielberg movie, and it blew me away. And I still am amazed by that movie today because it still holds up so well.
Yes, I think I understand what you are saying, because yes, that connection to the real world, that you bring the real world, and then you have the real world, and then slowly you bring a bit of fantasy, a little bit fantasy, building up, right? That's what you connected you, right?
Exactly, because I think the best genre work works best with a basis in reality. Certainly, that works best in horror. You take a very realistic situation and then you kind of turn it upside down. Any kind of genre work that has a basis in reality really tends to draw the person in more.
Yeah, or at least there is that. Well, I'm not. I mean, I like some stories that are complete fantasy, but at least if I'm able at least to recognize something. For example, you have a fantasy story, but there is a main character, and the main character is a recognizable human being.
Yeah.
And you can even if that connection is small, but at least it's there, and from that you can accept the rest.
Getting back to Star Wars just a moment, we talked a little bit before we started recording about your trip to Tunisia. So
yes.
Why don't you give us that story? Because I thought that was really interesting.
Okay. Well, it was when I finished high school. I went to the how do you call that, the travel to a foreign country that you do out after college? What do you call it? You have a name, specific name?
There's no specific name for it.
Yeah, we have in Portuguese, so sorry, I thought you also have. So we call it Viagem de Finalistas. Finalistas means somebody who finished high school, college, right? So our destination was Tunisia. It was in March. Unfortunately, it was not in the summer. So it was when in the third day we were there in a week. In the third day, the tourist guide suggested to us to go to the desert, and I was like, oh, cool, the desert. I'm going to watch the ergs. Ergs are the huge mountain dunes, right? The Arabs call them ergs, because contrary to what you might believe, the desert, the sun desert in the Sahara is very rare. It's not the Sahara is more like rocks, right? And the dry ground. Dry ground. Why I'm talking about dry ground? Because this speaks to what I'm going to say next. On our travel to the desert, we stopped at the site where it was filmed, part of Star Wars. It was the part where where Luke lives with his uncles, with his aunts, uncle and aunt. And I was at that same the house where Luke lived, and it's a place where people lived. That's a village. That is one of the houses. The way that the film is shot, the way that Lucas framed, it makes it look like it's in the middle of nowhere. Actually, there is other caves like that. It's all on the ground that has some man-made caves, and those caves never fall because there almost no rain there. It rains like each 20 years or so. So as you can see, there is no risk of infiltration. There's no risk of the walls to fall. So they painted those walls. It's painted with chalk. I think that's what you call it. White walls, and it's very comfortable living place. And the people who are there, I mean, it would be the kind of home you probably would like to live in, because it's kind of like an hobbit. You live like an hobbit there. And actually, another thing that, and not so far away, actually, right about that place, and at the distance, I also saw another place that another place that was used as a filming shot for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Do you remember the part when Indiana Jones he rides a horse and is go after the Ark?
Yeah.
And there is this Nazi convoy, and Indiana Jones he goes up a ramp, and from the horse he jumps to the truck that contains the Ark. Right? Remember that part?
Right.
That was the set that was the set that I saw at a distance.
Oh,
and I was,
cool.
I recognize that. That's where they filmed part of the chase of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Cool.
That is pretty
So,
cool.
yeah, that was, and there's no coincidence, of course, because the thing that links the two movies is George Lucas. George Lucas probably must have thought, hey, there's a place when I filmed Star Wars, there was a place that could be well used for a chase scene. Yes, and so that's my story that I have about Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, is that I visited two places where the films were shot in Tunisia.
That's a very cool story, though. More than anything, you're pretty much known on the message boards for your dislike for J.J. Abrams.
Oh boy. My dislike for J.J. Abrams, yes.
I think maybe dislike is too mild a word.
No, dislike is the right word. Probably an even better word would be despise. No, but not hate. I don't hate the man.
You just don't like his work.
I hate his movies. I don't hate him. I despise him. I despise him. I despise what he represents about New Hollywood, and that kind of filmmaking that he does. and the kind of filmmaker that he is.
Well, what is it about his work that you don't like specifically?
Well, like the basic stupidity. I mean, I hate stupidity in films, and his movies are very, very stupid. They are very insulting, and I think that I don't know, these movies are the victory of advertisement over filmmaking. I mean, I could at the same time that I don't think I could sum up in just 20 words. At the same time, I could be talking about 2 hours about why I don't like bloody movie. To say what I don't like about him in these movies in a general way. It's kind of hard because it's when I go to specifics that the thing makes more sense, you know. But I would bore people about what is bad about. Sometimes at any equal news, somebody asks me, "What do you think? What is bad about the Abrams Trek movie, the first?" I refuse to call it Star Trek. And my answer to him was, there is 120 wrong things about the movie, one for each minute. And I'm not exaggerating. I once rewatched the movie, and there is not a single minute in that film there is not something wrong or stupid or could have been done better, but obvious better. And the same thing about the second movie. And on a lesser extent, also Super 8. And I find Mission Impossible 3 reasonable. Sorry. I mean, the guy is like is like sort of the continuation of Michael Bay, a little smarter than Michael Bay. I mean, I have to give Abrams his due. He's a very smart salesman. If there is something smart about him, is that he's a very capable salesman.
But don't you think there's room in the cinematic universe for his work?
No, no, I don't think so. And there was a time that I considered that he should go back to TV and forget cinema. But even television is because television now is so good that for him to return to television would be to bring the quality down. You know.
Well, but he did Fringe, and Fringe was one of my favorite shows when it was on.
I watched an old episode. I watched a few episodes of Fringe, and I was just, it's the same again. I mean, maybe it's a little. I wouldn't say that these TV shows are as bad as these films. They are better. I see the mystery box. I see the dumb things, the little dumb things. I just can't. It's like how shall I call it? It's a bombardment of stupidity, big and small. I just can't stand it. There's something to be said about how ready people are to accept stupidity in entertainment, because I once discovered there is a name for fear of intelligence. The phobias. There is a name for phobia about intelligence. There is not a word about phobias against stupidity. Interesting, isn't it?
That is interesting.
So I was like, no wonder that a movie like Abrams Trek might have more general acceptance than, for example, a movie like Interstellar, which is a very smart film. So the smart film gets criticized, the dumb film gets universal loved. Yeah, I'm like, oh boy, what they are doing to my cinema.
Well, I was gonna bring up Interstellar because we had Sasha Pearl Raver on the Supernauts a couple of
Yeah.
times, and she had some not very nice things to say about Interstellar. And I know that you didn't quite agree with her assessment of the movie.
No, I didn't I? No, I may have been a bit too harsh, but at the time I was reading a lot of negative. The problem with it is that the majority of the negative opinions about Interstellar are made from ignorance, because Interstellar might be the second most accurate scientific film ever made after 2001. But because the movie is about stuff like black holes and temporal displacement due to relativity. It's so exotic to our common sense, because the universe doesn't care about our common sense. Because our common sense is only guided by the scale in which we live in the universe. We live in a very small scale in the universe. The universe, there is on one side there is the quantum universe, the quantum dimensions, and the other side is the relativity dimensions. And the universe is like 99% of the universe exists in these two scales, and we inhabit in this Earthian zone, and we take that for granted. That everything, and so when somebody, Sasha said, she said something like, "The movie is full of fantasy." Well, it is not actually. There is probably only one of two elements of fantasy in that movie. One is the ice clouds. On that, you watched the movie. You watched the movie.
I have not seen it yet. No.
Okay, there's a one sequence which, for me, the scientific or that sequence is for me very doubtful, because there is they go to a very cold planet, and that planet it has ice clouds. Literally, the clouds are made of ice. Now there is ice clouds, but on certain circumstances like the planet Neptune. But on a planet like Earth, but only colder, I doubt that could be floating ice clouds. And the other is since the movie strives to be so scientific, is if human beings can actually hibernate, It's actually possible for human beings to hibernate. We can go in comas for years, but we don't hibernate naturally. So I have doubts about that. Other than that, the movie is very accurate about and if you know what the movie is representing, and you see that the people actually did the science. Actually, one of the producers, Kip Thorne, is one of the greatest experts on black holes. He and Richard Stephen Hawking are the two of the greatest experts on black holes, and the movie is very accurate. And to say that somebody called the movie just a mere fantasy, no, it's not. It's not. The movie, it's the 2001 of black holes in a story. And actually that movie even in the bother to separate what is a wormhole from a black hole,
Mm-hmm.
Something that the Abrams track, for example, didn't. They treated the same thing as as a fantasy, something that doesn't exist in the universe. And that movie actually bothered. I mean, it's a movie made by smart people that treats audience as smart people. And what the audience's reaction do? They revolt. And I have a certain hypothesis. I'm going to call it hypothesis, not a theory, because I can't demonstrate it. But I have this hypothesis that I think that we are getting used to movies being dumb. I think you are getting used for that films are dumber than us, and it kind of gives us a sort of sense of superiority about the movies. If a movie is released, that the movie that is as smart as we are or smarter, I think some people resent that. They might not notice that, might be unconscious, but I think we resent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like who do you think you are? No, and because you are so used to being smarter than the films that if a film is smart, we are like, you don't know how to react to that. I don't know if I don't know if I'm having some sort of insight about this or not, but I've been thinking about the reactions on Interstellar, because something that I used to take for granted, it was that everybody would agree about when a movie is good or bad. When I was younger, I thought that was a matter of course, yeah, this movie is great, this movie is not. We could would have favorites, for example, my favorite is Blade Runner, and somebody would say, my favorite is Raiders of the Lost Ark, or my favorite is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and I couldn't argue with that. I could just say, yes, your choices are excellent. I just have my favorite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We would disagree on favorites, but we wouldn't disagree about what is good, bad. And lo and behold, to my great surprise, my dealings with the geeks all these years, especially since Any Cool News, was that wow, there are people that actually think that bad, stupid movies are good. I just couldn't believe, like there are people that are genuinely fans, for example, of Commando. It's like that movie is as dumb as it can be, and yet there are people that actually call it good just because they enjoy it. And I'm like, what, but this does the definition good is more elastic than I believed that it was. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's been quite an eye opener about what is film geekdom. Yes, it's very interesting.
Well, that brings up a good question then. What is film geekdom to you?
Well, I used to know what was film geekdom. Well, at a long time in my life, it was to be a film geek was an individual experience until the internet. I could sometimes meet people that would also love about movies and they would discuss movies, but that would be more like, chasing encounters, I had my group of friends. We basically enjoy more or less the same movies. We have similar opinions. That was the extent of my what I would consider film geekdom. I would read reviews. That was for me. That was my friends, some people that I would met in work or in school or in college, and the reviewers. And with the internet exploded. And my first contact with the geeks as a community was I don't know if this is a site that we shall not be named, but the mother site,
Yeah.
the site from we all spawned from. So that site was a revelation. I discovered that site because I still buy the the British film magazine Empire. It's called Empire, and the Empire ran an article about the the man we shall not name, and he's fat. So I think everybody knows who he is.
And he has red hair, I believe.
And he's also red-headed, yes, and he has a beard too, and he doesn't leave home, blah 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 blah. So and then I discovered his site, and for me that site was a revelation because my second revelation in terms of film geekdom, because here was people, mostly Americans, that sometimes they like the same things I did, you know. This was great. This was to discover these like-minded people or people with similar tastes, people who spoke a different language, had different culture, have this different life experience for me, and yet we all united by a similar love for films. This was like discovering a second family, you know what I mean, or a third family. My family, there's a second family would be my friends. This was my third family, so to speak. You know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
And then for me, this idea I became this idea that we film geeks, our function, shall we say, would be to be watchdogs. We'd be cinema watchdogs when filmmakers failed, when reviewers failed, professional reviewers failed, like Roger Ebert. We would be the last line of defense of a good movie that would unfortunately not be popular with the audience or with the critics, or vice versa. Bad movies that would be loved by the audience or loved by the critics, we would be the ones that would call them out,
Uh-huh.
And at the beginning, that site did something like that. They called out on Batman and Robin, and they helped promote Starship Troopers, because Starship Troopers is a good movie that was misunderstood at the time. The movie is a comedy, basically. It's what it is. It's not an action movie. It's a comedy about that kind of reactionary mentality, which unfortunately the movie ended up being quite how shall I say, prescient about the reactions after 9/11. Because if you watch that movie after 9/11, it's like watching a metaphor. And the movie was not made as a metaphor, but it works, right? And Batman Robin was that kind of movie that supposedly is the kind of movie that audience like, the kind of movie that studios are comfortable making. But people that love cinema or love comics, love Batman or whatever, we are saying, no, this is wrong. This is not how we should do it, you know. And for me, at least at that initial years, I thought I found what we geeks should be, and I still believe this. But I know that not many people agree, and I'm, of course, many years later, when the first Cyberpunk track came out, I put my hat, I assume this philosophy about being a watchdog, a film watchdog, and at least on this movie, I decided to step my foot down and say no, no, this is wrong. This is not what a Star Trek film or a cinema even should be, and I'm going to say why. I'm not going to be another sheep. I'm not going to be a sheep just screaming wonders about the movie just because the movie is popular or just because everybody in the geekdom or the critics decided to love this movie. And I, in the hope that there would be probably other people uh, that be in the closet about their opinion on the movie, but wouldn't say their pieces because they were afraid of ridicule, you know,
Right.
of because they didn't have the popular opinion. And you know, sometimes I can be very stubborn. That's a family trait.
Not a Portuguese trait?
Especially from the south, yes. Yes. I'm a Portuguese from the south. We are have a different type of, we have a different culture than from the Portuguese from the north, the north sort. Sorry, sometimes I say in Portuguese. Sorry. Yeah. Uh,
What were some of the best movies that you saw this year?
this year, well, obviously Interstellar. Well, I haven't been much to the movies lately because this I had a surgery and recovery from surgery and another surgery. So surgery, I have the hernias, spinal hernias. So unfortunately, I haven't spent much time in the theater. So some of the movies that I like that I watched on video. There is a small horror film called Devour that I also liked a lot. I recommend people to watch that little film. It broke my heart. It's a film that about an immigrant from South Salvador who's worked like she's worked like a dog, like the Beatles said, and slowly she seems to start to live a story of a ghost in her workplace. It's a very heartbreaking story. I recommend to watch that. And more films that I watched this year. I have a difficult time remember them because I don't know. It's like I only remember Interstellar. I mean, really, that movie overwhelmed me that eh, probably in the conversation I would yes, I also watched this, I also watched that, but I don't remember them. I just remember Interstellar. Boy, I sound like I'm obsessed. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, what movies?
Sorry, there is a movie that I watched this year, which actually came out the year before. It's called Europa Report. It's also science fiction. It's also another film that tries to be realistic. It's a movie that depicts a scientific voyage to the moon Europa, the Jupiter moon Europa, where they travel there to discover to see if there is life under the ice because the moon Europa is covered with ice. You know.
Right.
And I also recommend that film. That film is shot like a found footage movie. But for once, the format actually makes sense because it's the cameras inside the space, the ship, and it's edited to make a story. It's very cool, very fun. It makes you wonder that somebody with only $5 million managed to make all that. It's fantastic. Very good for people that like that kind of science fiction. I recommend it. But it's a 2013 movie, but I only watched in 2014. Wolf, The Wolf of Wall Street. I also watched in 2014, so that's also probably a great movie this year that I watched this year. That movie is hilarious.
What movies are you looking forward to in 2015?
Well, believe it or not, there was this movie that I had no interest in watching, which was Mad Max Fury Road. I watched the trailer. Now I want to watch the movie. That trailer completely turned me.
That is probably one of the best trailers I've seen in a very long time.
Absolutely. That's a trailer. That's how you make a trailer.
Well,
Wow.
especially when you compare it to the Star Wars teaser. And
Yes, the Star Wars teaser, man. May I just say a few words about that teaser?
Go ahead.
I think that teaser is much ado about to quote from Shakespeare. The teaser shows nothing of importance. And I would say that I could make the worst movie in the history of cinema that would contain that images, and I would cut that teaser, and people would be raving about it. Those images could be in the worst movie ever made. You know what I mean? And people are going orgastic about that. Please, I mean, come on, man. Just because it's Star Wars, you should be more worried if it's Star Wars, right? I mean, if you want to, it's like if Ridley Scott really goes ahead and makes a Blade Runner 2, and he shows a teaser, that doesn't mean the movie is going to be good. Of course, I want Blade Runner 2 to be good, but that doesn't mean that if I watch a teaser which only shows a bunch of buildings, tall buildings, and rain, and sometimes they're going to see one Nexus 6 or Nexus 7 or whatever there's going to be in the movie. That doesn't mean I'm going to go ejaculate about in the least. Oh, the movie's going to be the best movie ever. Please, man, get some self-control, man. Come on, respect yourself.
Well, but I also think that teaser was made for nobody else other than Star Wars fans. It certainly isn't going to bring in anybody new, and it's not really going to convert anybody like myself who wasn't a fan of the movies in the first place.
Yes, to preach to converted, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, probably. It's kind of more like the movie exists. That for me, the only thing that the trailer says is the movie exists. That's it. Maybe there will be a trailer. Maybe there will be a future trailer that will actually be good and will actually make people create a genuine interest in the film. But so far, that's nothing. That's a roadblock. That's a road sign. Sorry, that's a road sign. That's what that teaser is. Road sign. Nothing more.
Well, and they've still got quite a bit of time to put something together that will wow everybody.
Yeah, yes, they have all here to make to pull another mystery box. Actually, I read a description about the movie. It's the site guarantees that the information has how shall I say, credibility. Sorry, and from what I read, I think we are going to get a mystery box.
Well, yeah, that's J.J. Abrams' signature, so
yeah, the man likes his mystery box. So far, he has worked, right?
Yeah. If you find something that works, then you keep doing it until it doesn't work.
Yeah,
And
stick with what you know.
It hasn't stopped working for him yet.
Yes, that's I say it. I say that really.
All right. So aside from Mad Max, what else are you looking forward to this coming year?
More movies that I want to watch next year. Actually, I drew a blank. What other movies are going to be released next year? Drew a blank. Is there other movies made?
Oh, I'm sure
Christmas
there's
next year?
some other movies coming out next.
I can recall one. I can recall. There's the Duncan Jones and the Warcraft
World of Warcraft
movie.
movie. That's the one I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to.
Yeah. I actually I don't. I'm not. I'm like, wow, really? Duncan Jones? All the things that could be done. That? I don't know, man. I'm afraid.
I've seen
Afraid.
well, I've seen some stills, and from what I've heard from people who were at BlizzCon this year, who saw a uh, a clip of it, it's going to make the Lord of the Rings movies look like the old Ray Harryhausen movies.
Yeah. Really? Wow.
Yeah,
So why there's no hype about it then?
I don't know that you really need hype for World of Warcraft because
Mm,
it's its own hype machine as it is. I think
mm,
that, once the movie gets closer to being released, we'll see a lot more about it. But they've been very very tight-lipped uh,
yeah.
with it, and I think maybe that's part of the hype, not knowing a lot about it. But
Hmm.
I think it's going to be a good movie, and
Well, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, there's the 2015 as a problem because I don't think there is going to be released a movie either by Nicholas Winding Refn or Christopher Nolan. So that's always a minus for me.
uh,
A year without Refn, a movie by Refn or Nolan is always is also a dry year.
well,
Hopefully,
we've also got
hopefully.
the Avengers: Age of Ultron coming out.
Ah, of course, yes. Also by Whedon.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, 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 okay,
And
okay. That will
let's
fill
see.
my light entertainment quota.
I believe Guillermo del Toro's new movie is coming out.
Oh yes, the Ghost House
Yeah,
film, right?
Crimson.
With Jessica Chastain.
Yeah,
Okay, that's another thing to look forward. Okay, I was pretty disappointed with Pacific Rim, but since this movie doesn't have giant robots, there is hope.
no, I think this is probably going to be closer to some of his earlier work. At least I hope so.
Yeah, a throwback, right?
And
I just wish that he would made more films in Spanish because he's at his best when he makes films in the Spanish language. Like yes, like the El Labirinto del Fauno, the Pan's Labyrinth. That
Kronos.
film is Kronos also, and La Espinazo del Diablo, the Devil's Backbone. That movie is that's also brilliant.
That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies by him.
Yes, that movie is fantastic.
Uh,
And in the because I'm Portuguese, I've that the movie is set in Spain in the tail end of the Civil War. Of course, I didn't live there that phase, but it's something that is very close to me. You know what I mean?
uh-huh.
Close in terms of culture, and besides, the protagonist is called Carlos. So, aha, my name. I always have a weak soft spot for a protagonist name after my name. It's kind of it's very weird, but I always like when a character is called Charles or Carlos. I was satisfied. Yes,
Crimson Peak. That's the name of the new movie.
Crimson Peak. Yeah, exactly. That's it. And really, I'm drawing a blank about. I think that's because I have to think in English, and my mental faculties are always completely dedicated to how to speak English, and I can remember films,
Well,
the films of
watch. You,
2050.
you can
I've oh my
you can always put them in the comments after the show gets posted.
yes, hopefully.
Well, I'm gonna close this out.
Oh,
Oh, I know.
already,
Oh, it's
already.
been. I know it goes by fast.
Yes, we're speaking. The poor devils listening to having to listen to this. Poor guys
Well,
listening to
uh,
the guy that doesn't speak English. Ah,
That's why I edit them.
Brilliant.
But I want to thank you for coming on,
Oh,
Carlos, and once
it
again,
was a
welcome
pleasure.
over to the Supernauts.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And looking forward to your work once you start posting stuff. And if you
Yeah.
like Imaginarium, then you'll love the other shows that we have on the Supernauts Network, including the Supernauts
Mhm.
Debate Show, Breakfast on Planet X, and of course the Shut Up Kids podcast. And until next time, may all your hopes and dreams be filled with pure imagination.